Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Metal Warriors. In the last part, we did essentially most of the middle portion of the game, starting off the first part of Stage 6. And now we're going to finish Stage 6 off and then see what lies beyond it. Now, this latter, I guess it's more of a latter half than 2/3 of Stage 6, have some difficulties to them in that they share a lot of the same ideas that the first portion did, and that it's very cramped with a lot of enemies in there. Which, as I mentioned last part, is essentially how the latter half of the game is going to play out anyway, but Stage 6 is probably the most guilty with it out of the game. Because even Stage 7's a bit more open. Stage 8's a bit odd in how it works anyway, so I'll talk about that when we get to that next part. And then the final stage, we'll see how that works. And what we want to do first is actually come up here and hit this switch, because we need to hit this to progress. However, we need to wait about 20 or 30 seconds for it to reach where it needs to get to, because it needs to get all the way to the right. I think I may have overblown the time there. It's probably closer to 15 seconds anyway, but you want to come up here and get this item box. Hopefully it has a missile launcher, because that'll make the boss fight later in this portion of the stage a bit more tolerable if you manage to keep it for long enough. I end up losing it through one method or another. And you want to get out of the mech here and head left, but constantly be jumping so you have your little jet speed going on, because otherwise that soldier will take this havoc when you get close. And, oh, then you're against two Havocs, and that probably won't end well. Though, I think Havocs are, again, one of the mech types that don't actively tend to target you when you're outside of your mech. But even then, I'm partially convinced that the enemy mechs targeting you out of suit changes the farther you are in the game, but I have no evidence to back that up. It's just a feeling I get. Probably because they have more aggressive mechs the farther you go through the game. Like, we don't see those, weird laser cannon mechs again after stage 1 or 2. We don't see those flying mechs again, I don't think ever, from stage 1 or 2. We're mostly stuck to ground-based units here from here on. I mean, we're on Earth, and it makes sense, but one thing I'm not sure about in this section. The lava down there, first off, the lava isn't instant kill unless I believe you're out of mech. It just damages your mech a lot in a very short period of time. But in certain portions, there's little bubbles that come up, and I think they can destroy the platforms above them, and I'm not sure if that can damage your mech, because I don't think I ever get touched by it. Now, I'm leaving the nitro here and leaving it there for a while, because I want to come up here and get this havoc. This is going to be what I use for most of the stage, because I want the nitro for the boss fight. Plus, the extra speed helps. And this is where the major threat of the stage comes in. Lava mixed with potential crushing platforms, and enemies placed very smartly in tight corridors. And I think this is also our first introduction to these traps, but I think I'm wrong about that, because I think they may have shown up in stage 2. The way those things work is they're just kind of placed onto certain platforms, and the moment either you touch the platform or shoot them, the mines will erupt from their little clasps. And they'll destroy the platform in doing so, but then they'll actively hold on to you with pretty good accuracy. You can shoot them down if you're quick enough or you aim well enough, but most of the time I just recommend trying to lead them into like a corner where they'll just hit the wall. They are damaging, and honestly probably one of the deadlier parts of the latter portion of the game, because the explosion from them getting out of the clasp hurts you, as does the explosion themselves, so you need to be a bit careful with that. Thankfully, they can get destroyed by essentially any stage hazard. In fact, that's one thing I like about this game. If it's a stage hazard to you, it is to the enemies as well most of the time. Those weird electrical currents, the lava to my right, it'll all damage them. So does getting crushed. It's a pretty fair game in that regard. Anything that can damage you can generally damage them. Hazards-wise, at least. Obviously, enemy fire won't damage them because, hey, game mechanics. I recommend saving any item boxes for when you have to get the nitro again. Just so you can potentially get any beam power-ups and such, or health should the case be, and for some reason you brought the nitro with you all this distance, which I don't recommend. It's positions like this where the game probably really is just actively trying to kill you at this point. I'd say the baby gloves in this game come off after stage 4 on the whole. No, starting in stage 4 rather. But this is the point in the game where you really need to be more on your guard. Learn to love the shield button. I don't do it because there's this weird balance where obviously every enemy has a shield themselves as well, and the Havocs and these guys especially love to use them. But you need to time it carefully, otherwise you just won't be able to shoot enemies at all. So you have to risk versus reward kind of shooting up here. Especially when it comes to the cannons, because the cannons have a deceptively high rate of fire, and I can't tell if that's just my brain playing tricks on me or if it actually is just deceptively fast. Like that. That was a lot faster than the last shot. Maybe they actively have a little counterattack thing. Either way, at this point, I am going to be abandoning the Havoc. Because at this point, we are very close to where the Nitro was. We just have to kind of go through the correct passageway down here. And at this point, I have to do a jump cut, because once I get back to the Nitro, I have to trek through that entire portion of the stage that we were just through again. And while that was happening, I accidentally pressed the L button and used up my missile launcher, because that thing fades away after time. Because I think I mentioned that about sub-weapons, but in case I didn't earlier, the moment you start using a sub-weapon, it has a timer on it. And while it would have been useful for this upcoming boss fight, I at least, I think, got a seeker shot out along the way, or I may have just been a power-up. I forget if I'm confusing this with my main playthrough or my test playthrough. By the way, we got a boss fight. You've reached the end of the line, punk. In a moment, you'll be cooking in the lava below. Main boss fight for this stage is this other mech type, and it likes to either stay above you, or when you're above it, try to stay below you. Its main damaging attack is what we just saw there. It has a missile that it can hit you with really quickly that will do a lot of damage. It also has that mine attack that this one in particular likes to do to try and destroy the platforms beneath you, because there is lava beneath us, and if we get down there, we will start taking damage. But my main strategy is to tend to stay level with it, if not slightly above it, to tempt it to use its gun attack, and then just mash fire into it. There is health along the stage. There's 3 boxes, one very easily in the open, and then 2 hidden in this platform below us, like this one. So if you can grab that, hey, real good for you. This boss isn't too hard, especially due to the health, but you still want to be on your guard. And when this animation plays, you've won, and then it'll fall and destroy the floor, and you want to follow it because then it creates a passageway through the lava, which we can then use to escape this way out of the Nitro. Takes down this dude, and there's the flyer we're here to get. Grab that flyer and get out of there. And you just get it and hold it up to fly. This is the Drosh, I believe is the name of this particular mech. And this one is a bit interesting in how it works, in that the main face buttons all do the same thing. They all fire, but they fire in different directions. For instance, hitting A fires right, X fires up, Y fires left, B down, and then any combination of those will fire diagonally. It has one attack of note, though, and that is, if I believe it's the replacement for the shield. You do this weird little power dive attack straight down with like an energy barrier around you, and if you can use that to your advantage, like right on top of enemies, you will do a lot of damage really quickly. I dare say it's probably the most powerful single attack in the game if you use it correctly. However, you also run the risk of taking damage doing that, so you need to play your cards right. Our goal in this section is just to escape the underground base. However, to do that, we need to open up a barrier above us, so I need to kind of head out of my way towards this direction to do that. Need to abandon the Drosh right here, fly left, and then just find the correct place to enter. Now, something I'm not entirely sure about, by the way, get to this Havoc quickly, because I think a soldier can enter this, and that would be bad. Obviously, we've seen enemies, by enemies I mean soldiers, spawn from little doors in the background. I think they can also spawn from the trucks, but don't quote me on that, because I think I've seen it happen, but I may have just been association with enemies already there. Now, the annoying thing about this portion is that once you get out of the Drosh, you kind of have to just go up, down, and all around as the Havoc to open up the correct barriers. You don't need to open up any of the energy beams, because there's energy beams on the extreme left and right of the areas anyway. You just need to open up the door that is, like, allowing us to head up. This one here. And this is a section you need to be a bit careful in, because there's a couple of soldiers in here, and if you're not careful, they can get some quick damage in. Doesn't help that they can hit you when you can't hit them like that. Get to this Havoc quickly, because that soldier can get in here, and that's no good. I think the way it might work is that Havocs that are spawned naturally won't target you, but those that a soldier jump into will. Open those doors and get back into the ship. Alright, at this point we just have to come back over here, because the Drosh is right back here. Fly back to that area where we entered, and then fly straight up. But there is an odd way with the way the end of the stage works, in that once you get to the outer areas, you need to fly to one extreme of the stage, generally the left or right. Oh, of course, there's only two extremes anyway, Kyle. And then fly towards the opposite, in which case the mission will end. If you can basically stay towards the center as long as you want, but you need to fly towards one extreme and then the other, and the mission should clear. A very long mission 6 is, but I do like a lot of the things about it, despite how cramped it gets. That red glow in the sky is from Dorado City. Axis forces are burning the city so as to leave us nothing to capture. Captain Stone's group will proceed to Zone 4 of the city. Your job is to keep the Axis forces from destroying the base there. Alright, this is a bit of a stage. Good luck, Stone. First off, you don't want to fly too high because those mines are there again and they will actively track onto you if you get too high. You want to stay low in this stage, generally speaking. But what's interesting about this stage is that you can do just about anything in it. Whenever there is wall in the way, whenever there's windows in the way like this thing in front of you, you can generally shoot them out. There's also a lot of cave-ins that will lead you to certain secrets, certain other pathways, so on and so forth. This is potentially the most open-ended stage in the game in terms of level design for you to travel through. And I have to admit, I like a lot about this stage. Now, something I don't think I've talked too much about thus far is the game's soundtrack. And this game's also got a pretty good soundtrack, but I have one major complaint in that it's pretty samey sounding. A lot of stages have unique themes, like the jungle stage has its own unique theme, the next stage does, so on and so forth. But a lot of stages do share a theme, like I think there's one song that's used at least 3 times. But it's all like really good music. I just couldn't pick which one was from which stage out of a barrel, if that makes sense. My favorite song is probably the cutscene theme, just because it's the one you hear the most, and this is the one that sticks in your head the most. Either way, at this point, I'm actually going to be abandoning the Nitro for a bit to use this Havoc, mostly because, first off, the Nitro is low on HP, and I don't want to lose that for the boss fight towards the end of this stage. But also just because the Havoc, I think, is better suited for certain portions of the stage. Mostly just to get me here, because the health is down there, but I do want to, I think, use it a bit more after this. But this is one of those stages like the previous stage, where whatever mech you have at a stage transition, like Fade to Black, where a checkpoint would usually be before a boss fight or something like that, you do keep it. So if you keep this Havoc with you throughout the rest of the stage, you will have it throughout the rest of the stage. And depending on who you are, that's a good thing. Depending on who you are, that's a bad thing. Personally speaking, I like it because, hey, that means if you like a mech, you can stick with it. But depending on the stage, if you're not careful, you might accidentally progress too far and lose out on the chance to get the one you want back. Now, I forget exactly what mechs are in the stage. Obviously, there's a Havoc, you have the Nitro to start, and there's a Ballistic, I know for a fact. And I think there's a 4th one somewhere, but I don't know where. This is one of those games that I play, but I don't tend to explore the levels that much. I just go through what I need to, because I find that fun enough. Ooh, I'll take that missile launcher. Now, the way that you're going to want to progress through this stage is a lot of just kind of going up and down through parts of the building like this. You go through, I think, about 3 or 4 buildings. You go through, I think, zones 1 through 4, though zone 3, I think, is easily the largest. And once you get through that, you're pretty much in the clear. You do need to be careful of the cave-ins, as I said before, though, as well as just some of the amounts of enemies they can throw at you. Like, this is, I think, the first stage, if not the last stage, where we run into mine-throwing enemies. And they are annoying, mostly just because they can pile on the damage really quickly due to the explosions from their mines. Also, fun fact, this is the first time I've seen this particular pathway. I usually tend to stick high during this portion of the stage, so I usually don't see this, so this is a new experience for me. Now, one thing I know the speedrun loves to do, from my watching it, is they really like to use the Saber a lot. The melee attacks, particularly from the Saber, are really good just because they do a lot of damage really quickly, and we're going to see that really well here. The 3 large Axis units are just ahead. Don't let them destroy the base in Zone 4. Alright, we got a bit of a pseudo time limit here, I think, but I've never had it actually run out. There are 3 little not little, they're quite big, worm mechs that we need to take out from the front. Here's the first one right here. They have a few attacks. When you're right in front of them, they'll charge up a giant screw-you beam to try and take you out. Those do a lot of damage really quickly. When you're behind them or above them, generally they'll just fire out some standard pellets, but if you're directly above them, they'll fire out a big volley of missiles that, if you're not careful, can kill you in about 3 seconds. It's dangerous. You want to stick to their front, jump whenever you see them start to charge up their beam at a point where you feel like you're not safe anymore, at least. And melee attack their face, particularly with the stab beam saber that's done by pressing forward and the A button. That should take them out pretty quickly. I think 4 to 5 stabs should be all you need, maybe a few more than that, though. Continuing on, we have the second one just behind the first one, but the third one we need to go underground and be careful with here. This is where you can very easily be killed by the missiles if you're too fast. They are slowly heading towards the left side of the screen, which I believe if they reach is game over, but I've never had it happen. This is probably the one you're the most likely to miss, and if you have plenty of time, though, I think. I think there's some item boxes earlier on in the stage that you can get for some health or missile launchers, but at this point, I'm just safe with my standard beam rifle and beam saber. So at the end of the day, I'm pretty good at this. Or with this, rather. Once he gets rid of that last little platform there, though, I can start stabbing and have this end pretty quickly. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Shorter part compared to the previous ones, I know, but for the next mission, we're going to need it. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Take care. And in part 4, we're going to be doing the little bonus we've earned through not dying at this point in the game. See you guys then.